Good morning, everybody. Bob Proctor once said, "If I want to be free, I gotta be me." What a powerful statement. This has helped me so much in my life, and I'm sharing it with you today to hopefully help yours. You have to be yourself. What is it that you really want in life? These are the things you have to ask yourself constantly, and you have to look at yourself from the perspective of you want that freedom you deserve and other people deserve, and that comes from within. I look at all the great thinkers. I look at people I look up to. People like Evan Carmichael, who's a mentor for me. I've never met Raymond Aaron in my life until this weekend. I finally met him. What an amazing man. I had the privilege of listening to Bob Proctor yesterday. All these people and all those other wonderful people I met, they are truly free to be their true positive self. That's who you're meant to be. I challenge you to remember this and be this. Have a great day, everybody.
In celebration of my recent one-on-one video with Gary Vee's life coach, please enjoy this video from our vault.
For me, happiness is being able to do what you want to do at all times.
So not conforming, like not pandering, yeah.
Just being able to do what you want to do. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And I think that is one of the great things about entrepreneurship. The cost of that is you're always 1 second away from dying. Right? Entrepreneurship is scary. Like 1 second you're the top of the world, next thing, like there is nobody behind you. You're the last line. It's like fighting a war, just you. You're the last. This is the castle, you. Everybody's been fighting, you. So that's lonely, that's scary, but you get to define it. You get to tell where they positioned and how they should fight it. And so I love that feeling. I love being in that place. Loving what you do is so people hear that and it's, even when I was a kid, I was like, oh, the boat, it's very fluffy, but it's very true. Like being happy in what you do, and whether that's making $45,000 a year or $4 million a year, if you really love it and you're really doing what you want to be doing, that's a very, very good place to be. You're just going to be happy.
Happiness comes from knowing who you are and then having the courage and confidence to step out onto that ledge. Step out onto the ledge, and go live it, and go be you. Because it's hard, because it's tough, because you're gonna get judged, because we're constantly comparing our version of happiness to somebody else. I'm here in Puerto Rico. Brendan Burchard invited me down to speak to his mastermind group. These people pay 30 to 50,000 a year to be a part of it, and I'm honored to be a guest. And the thing that I see consistently from all the people who are here, right? Imagine if you're dropping 30 to 50K to be here, how much are you making so that you want to come down, right? Everybody's doing the thing that makes them come alive. And that's a secret of entrepreneurship, at least the ones who are successful. That your version of happiness is going to look different than somebody else's. You're a weird duck. That's awesome. Go live it. Brendan came on stage and started talking about his daily routine. Brendan doesn't do anything work-related typically until about 1 o'clock. He wakes up, he walks the beach, he meanders, he plays with his cat, he does all of these things that get him in the right mental framework, and his first call is 1 o'clock. So he said that I want you guys to try something. Tomorrow, go out and walk the beach, right? Go out and walk the beach. Try that first thing in the morning. He moved the start time. We're supposed to start at 9. He moved the start time to 10 o'clock because he wanted us to walk the beach just as an experiment to see. And I did it. I went out, I walked the beach, and it was good. But it's not the thing that brings me happiness. Right? Living in a tropical paradise, it's not my thing. I like concrete. I like the concrete jungle. I like being steps away to everything. I like insane high-speed internet. You know, the things that make me happy are going to be different than Brendan Burchard. They're going to be different than you. It's just about figuring out what the heck is the thing that makes you happy, and then spending as much time as possible doing that thing. A lot of it is still just a mind game. So how do you do it? Let's start this process. 1, think about the people in your life that make you happy. Think about the people in your life that when you spend time with them and then you leave, you feel more energetic than before. They gave you energy as opposed to stealing it. Dan Dapani calls it energy vampires, the people who suck your energy, right? You leave them and you feel depleted. Most people are going to be the energy vampires, but you'll have some people who are positive, uplifting, and when you leave them, you feel better about yourself, better about your life, more energetic, ready to take on the week ahead, the day ahead, the month ahead, the year ahead, what have you. Who are those people? Make a list of those people, and then try to spend more time with them. Try to find a project you can work on together, or if it's just meeting once a month for coffee. Try to spend more time with people who lift you up, who make you feel amazing. 2, make a list of all the things that make you feel happy in terms of activities. What activities do you love to do? I love salsa dancing. I love League of Legends. Even League of Legends, let me tell you, League of Legends, if you don't know League of Legends, it's a video game. I've been playing for 5 years. I'm not particularly good at it. I don't spend enough time on it to get amazing, but I like it. I love it. It's fun. In my downtime, I'm either salsa dancing or playing League of Legends. That's it. Those are my hobbies. I don't cook. I don't walk the beach. I don't garden. I almost do nothing. It's entrepreneurship, League of Legends, and salsa dancing. That's pretty much it. I could come here to Puerto Rico and never eat in any restaurant. The first 2 days, before Nina came here, the first 2 days I had cashews and almonds for dinner. Maybe not the healthiest, like long-term nutritional diet, but no need to go out and explore the different restaurants. It's entrepreneurship, League of Legends, and salsa dancing. Already in that, there's a level of happiness, because it's also saying no to the things that I don't really particularly enjoy doing. I don't want to go to karaoke. I don't want to go out and try this other place. You know, I don't want to. I'm good. I'm good. This is what makes me happy. Talking about League of Legends was a little bit shameful, I think, at the beginning, where to say that I was playing a video game as opposed to doing something more valuable or meaningful with my time. But now I talk about it. I like it. It's fun. And if you don't think it's fun, that's awesome. And if you want to judge me for what I find fun, go for it. But you've got your own thing. Everybody's got their own thing that we're embarrassed to talk about, that we're ashamed to say out loud. And you can't be happy unless you do. You know, Gary Vee's got his jets. He's got the garage sailing. Putting out garage sailing videos, he got judged a lot for from his friends. You've got something like that too. I've got League of Legends. And so having the courage to then say, this is me, and to share it, and to be okay with it, and to not be embarrassed by it. Having the courage to go off and actually start living that life, to do it, to go and do it. Feel good about yourself. That's where the happiness comes from. And third, I would say, make sure that you're consuming content that makes you feel happy. You know, these videos, I've gotten so much from Gary, I've gotten so much from all the people I've profiled. It makes me feel happier. It makes me feel more aligned. You know, I'm not hanging with Gary every weekend. You're not hanging with me every weekend. But you can get the videos and you can remind yourself that this world exists and you want to play in it more often as opposed to where you are, because where you are right now isn't where you want to be, and that's okay. You don't have to stay where you are forever. And so the things that will get you out, the things that will lead to the ultimate happiness, is figuring out, one, what makes you happy, right? For me, it's not the beach. This isn't it. I don't want to live here. It's great, it's beautiful, amazing, but I don't want to. I think those people hanging out on the beach there with the umbrellas, I think they're nuts. Awesome, go do you. It's not for me. Understand what makes you happy. Hang around with people who make you happy. Do the activities that make you happy. Consume the videos, content, resources that make you happy. Start now, because you deserve to be happy. Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, question of the day, I want to know, what's one thing that you know makes you happy, but you're not spending enough time with or doing? Let me know. Put it down in the comments below. And if you made it this far, I want to celebrate you. Give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
What is being satisfied? Like, we're all going to be dead.
Yeah.
There's no, like, come on. Like,
No,
life
and-
is this, like, fleeting, stupid thing. Like, some people get more time than others, but, like, it's not. There is no, like, you know, no level of success is going to take you anywhere that the richest person in the end gets the same exact thing as the poorest person. So who gives it? What makes you really happy? And I've tried relaxing. I've tried sitting on the beach. I've tried, like, chilling out.
Doesn't work.
I've tried staying in fancy hotels and ordering room service. That just makes me bored and miserable.
Yeah.
I hate vacation. I hate relaxation.
Yeah.
Work is the only thing that really, really keeps me motivated and keeps me happy in the morning. I'm a better, like, father. I'm a better husband.
Great point.
When I'm working than when I'm not.
Happiness has a surprisingly bad reputation, and a lot of people feel very uncomfortable with the idea that they would seek to be happier. Sometimes this is because they feel that in a world so full of suffering, it's not morally appropriate to seek to be happier. Or they feel like, well, a happy person is just complacent, sits around thinking about their own satisfaction all the time. But in fact, research shows that happy people are more interested in the problems of the world. Happier people are more altruistic. They give away more money, they volunteer more time, they're more likely to help out if a family member or a friend needs a hand. When we're unhappy, it's very easy to become defensive, isolated, and preoccupied with our own problems. But when we're happy, we have the emotional wherewithal to turn outward and to think about other people and the problems of the world.
If you want to see my one-on-one with Gary Vee's life coach where she breaks me down, check the video on my main channel right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
80% of a human being's inner dialogue is negative. One of the things that human beings sucks at, besides dreaming, is the ability to keep promises to ourselves.
The world recently lost a legend of the personal development industry, Mr. Bob Proctor. And so to celebrate his life, please enjoy one of these videos that I've made from our vault.
And everybody, we're on page 49 of our top 10 rules for success journey with Evan Carmichael's book. And today we are introduced to Sadhguru, who says in his opening line, we are 100% determined by the way we choose to experience life. So our life is created 100% by us and the way we think. It all originates in thought. So I challenge you to remember this. Take this simple statement and think about where you are right now. You are 100% where you are, how you think, what you say, what you do right now because of your thoughts. This is the most exciting thing to me. We all have the ability to control our mind, and it is up to us to fill it with never-ending positive thoughts from wonderful human beings like yourself. Have a great day, everybody.
We grow up with these things I call invisible scripts. And these are the scripts that are beliefs that are so powerful, we don't even realize that they're around us. That's why they're invisible. So a classic one in America is the American dream is buying a house. Where did that come from? And in fact, there's all these phrases that people use like, you're throwing money away on rent. They don't make more land, you know, and on and on and on. If you really deconstruct that and you actually run the numbers, you might discover that actually buying a house is often not the best investment. And this is super counterintuitive. People get really mad because real estate is religion in America. But if you actually dive in deep, you might discover, wow, there's a lot of parties who want me to spend a ton of money. That's why, for example, I could buy today, but I rent. And when people hear that, they're like, wait, I thought the I will teach you to be rich guy's rich, so why is he renting? They get very confused because real estate is religion. You know, another thing that is really common today for people is there's no way to get ahead, right? Especially for young people. Social Security won't be around, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't believe in that. I think if you go onto Reddit or you go onto these places where it's a lot of people who are disaffected young people, they create an echo chamber of other people who want to victimize themselves, then you have a choice. Do you want to be reading those threads? Or, like I was reading the comments on your YouTube videos. I was like, these are the best YouTube comments I've ever seen. People are positive, constructive. They're pointing out things they saw in the 32nd minute of the video, meaning they actually watched the whole thing. Those are the kind of people that I want people to be around. So it's not impossible to make money. There's actually a lot of people making money. It's not impossible to get ahead, pay off debt, even invest and grow. There's a lot of people doing it. But if you're surrounded by people who constantly complain about how difficult it is and it's impossible, guess what? You're going to absorb those invisible scripts. I had a woman who wrote me and she said, Ramit, can you help me convince my husband not to waste money? And I go, okay, what's going on? She goes, he spends so much money on iced tea. And I was like, here we go. I go, how much money? And she goes, he buys iced tea 20 times a month, like almost every day. I said, how much is this iced tea? She said, it's $1.50 each time. So in my head, I'm like, this is insane. Like, why are we even talking about this? Right. But I knew there's something here, so I want to unpack it. I said, out of curiosity, what's your household income? No response for 20 minutes, okay? And then finally she comes back, she goes, I'm not comfortable sharing that. I said, just give me a range. Okay, what do you think her and her husband's household income is?
I know the story. I would have guessed otherwise. 80,000, 100,000.
Like a nice 600,000. And this is a perfect example. Like rationally and logically, we should literally not be talking about this because it's a rounding error. But there's something going on in her belief system that made her fixate on iced tea. And so for anybody, whether it's iced tea or whether it's, you know, lattes is a classic example. Everybody tells you not to spend money. I'm like, that's the worst advice ever. Buy as many lattes as you want. Or some people, they just love, for example, clothes, right? I like clothes. They love it, but everybody around them has told them things like, that's shallow, that's a waste of money, you should invest in your Roth IRA. And so what do? All of us, we're torn apart because we live in a paradoxical society that is both puritanical, telling us we should retreat into a cave and do nothing, but then we go on Instagram and everyone's in Bora Bora wearing, it's ridiculous. And so what do? We just buy everything and then we feel guilty. It's the worst possible response. So what I do is first I say, what do you love spending money on? Love. And nobody talks about this. They always say, oh, let me see your budget, you're overspending, and everyone's just like, forget this. I'll never come on here and berate someone for their spending because I've seen it all. When they talk about what they love, then I say, what would it feel like to be able to spend 2 times or 4 times as much on that? And people have never thought like that. Then, once we start from a place of aspiration, of what do we want, let's work through the mechanics of how to get there.
Really fast define a rich life for people, because I think that's going to be a key component to this whole discussion.
Well, it's different for everyone. My rich life early on was to be able to go to a restaurant and order appetizers, because I never did it when I was a kid.
Get it.
Like, ever. We would go and we'd eat out once every 4 to 6 weeks if we had a coupon, and we would like share 2 Cokes with the whole family, and we would never order appetizers. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. And then the next dream for me was to be able to hop in a taxi if I lived in New York during the summer without having to take the train and sweat before a meeting. Now my dreams got bigger, and there's a variety of things that are my rich life, but everybody's is different. So some people, I have people in my book, they're like, I use your book, my wife and I retired at 35 and 36, we drive around in an RV. I don't want to drive around in an RV. But he and his wife do, and I love that. So a rich life is what you define, and when I ask people what's a rich life to you, they usually say 2 things. Freedom, which is a very nice word, but it's kind of generic, and they say a number, usually $1 million. And I say, like, freedom, what is that to you? And they're like, I want to do whatever I want when I want. And I'm like, get specific. Do you want to order appetizers? Do you want to do yoga at 3 p.m.? And that's where the conversation stops. So if you're watching, I want everyone to think, what is your rich life? And take it from the clouds to the street. I want to buy 3 different Lululemon tank tops a month because I don't ever want to have to wear an old one. Whatever, go as crazy as you want. I want to travel for a month and I want to bring my family with me. Great. A rich life is different for everyone, but is about your definition. Most of what you see with money is just this mathematical, logical stuff. And it sounds good and everyone's like, oh yeah, compound interest. But then they go back to their day-to-day life, which is like, I want that sweater. I know I should be doing this. How come I'm not doing that? I feel bad. Close the book, forget it. And I want to take a really different approach. A perfect example is if you look at any money book. Anybody watching, go look at any money book. Look at chapter 1. You know what they tell you to do in chapter 1 of any book? Fine. Let's find out how much you spent last month. And people are like, no thanks, see you later. They don't know how much they spent, but they know it was bad.
Right.
And so if you actually understand human psychology, you know that my goal is not to make you feel bad. My goal is actually to show you how money can be positive, how you can live a rich life, whatever you want. So in chapter 1 of my book, I said, look, we all use credit cards. We all suck at using credit cards, and we all hate credit cards. Let me show you how to beat them. Read these words off the page, this battle-tested script, and you'll get your fees refunded and you'll get all these perks you don't even know about. People they're like, I don't know, this Indian guy's kind of weird, I'll try it. They pick up the phone, even millennials who are afraid of using the phone, they picked up the phone, they did it, and they're like, oh,
You're talking they call the bank.
They called
to
the bank.
negotiate this stuff.
Yes. And like that, they get a $35 fee refunded, or they get some perk they never even knew existed. And suddenly, psychologically, they go, oh my God, I can take control of my money. It's not all these huge concepts of retirement, inheritance, and all this stuff. No, I called, I got money back, now I can do it. So it's so important to be really incorporating your own psychology when you think about money. And part of that is, what do I want? Where did I get these beliefs from? Whether it's a movie or a family friend, and then what can I do today to start moving along and developing my rich life?
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel is created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn how to start multiplying your money. Enjoy. Rule number 2, get cash flow with Grant Cardone.
By the way, you should emulate success when investing. And what is the Warren, the Oracle, probably the greatest investor of all time, says, number 1,
Never.
don't lose money. The DLM, the old down low money. Number 2, the old man said, get you some cash flow. I think a lot of you misunderstand that. Warren said, invest for cash flow. He didn't say your second flow should be investing. And I'd have this conversation with him if I had dinner with him. And number 3, if I could afford to have dinner with him.
I can't afford to have dinner with him because as soon as I'd get there, I'd be like, this is going to end, and that would cause me a lot of problems. Okay, number 3, what do we say here?
Never depend.
No, long term. Long term. You got to be in this deal for long term. This is what led me, these 3 rules by the old man, Warren Buffett, is what led me to investing in real estate. So every Monday I come to you to advise you, your family, wherever you are, whether you got a job right now and you're making $60,000, $70,000 a year, or maybe you're making $600,000 a year or $6 million a year, and you're like, how do I get out of this thing that I'm in and start creating other flows for myself, okay? Number 1, don't lose money. Number 2, cash flow. Number 3, long-term, be a long-term investor. When I buy a piece of property for $4 million, okay? I just want to test these 3 criteria. Captain Ryan's with us, Real Estate Ryan.
Good to be here.
And I put $1 million down. How can I possibly lose my $1 million? Okay? I financed $3 million. By the way, the old man would like me financing this deal long term, 10 years of debt on this, from a good bank that believes in my property, that's actually a partner with me. Okay? I'm using the bank like I would Warren Buffett's money as a partner. So when I buy a $4 million real asset that produces cash flow, and I put $1 million down, what has to happen, ladies and gentlemen, my friends on the Instagram, the YouTube, the Facebook, and the iTunes that are listening to me because you're like Stevie Wonder, you can't see. How do I lose my money? You tell me how I lose my money. I'm buying in Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Houston, Texas. A lot of job growth. I know the market that I'm buying in, okay? I have tenants in the building. How do I lose my $1 million? Because that's what we're talking about here. How would I lose $1 million? 1. 2, if it provides cash flow every month, 4%, 5%, 6%, 8%, 10%, if it provides me with annual cash flow, every month I get a check, even if the market goes down and I don't have to sell, if I'm in it for number 3, the long term, I should make money in the future. It's just when. When do I make money? So that's what led me. I started studying because I love real estate. I'm like, I need to buy real estate that cash flows, not real estate. What real estate is going to cash flow today, next month, next year, and 10 years from now? Apartments. What do you think? Since 1945, the rents in America have gone up since World War II. Look at how many recessions we've had between 1945 and 2017. That's 70 years. And rents did this the whole time. It's a graph. Ding, 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 ding. You don't stop 50-year trends. You don't stop 50-year trends. Okay, so leads me down to what? Apartments, right? Leads me apartments, and leads me at mobile homes, leads me at storage. I need to focus on one of these because I'm a focused person. I'm not gonna try to do everything. So I started looking at apartments. Can I understand apartments? First thing I ever bought was a single family home. I put a renter in it, if you know my story. I put a renter in it, renter moved out. I was like, oh, that doesn't work. Sold it, got rid of it. I said, I'll never do that again. What did I do wrong? One door. Okay, if you're taking notes and you want to go do this yourself, I'll help you do it yourself, by the way. You don't have to invest with me, okay? Never buy one door, ever. You want to buy lots of doors. The more doors, the better. The number of units, the most important number in real estate, the single most important number, and Brandon will talk to you about this tomorrow. In any business, the most important number is the number of, in this case, units. In a business, it would be volume. It could be square footage. It's going to be, It would be how many times can you multiply that unit times? And the bigger you can get that number, that's why Netflix works, Facebook works, Amazon works, because these people are trying to scale that.
Rule number 3, become financially literate with Robert Kiyosaki.
I always ask people, what did you learn about money in school? And for the answer from most people is nothing. Well, I learned economics, balance a checkbook, but that's really not money. And the reason they don't learn about money is because the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is my poor dad was a PhD, which stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. No, he's a good man. But as you know, they don't learn much about money. And see, my father knew nothing about money. And that's the problem. So we have all these academic elites, you know, like Obama and Hillary and those guys. They run the country with no financial education.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 4, aim to become an owner with David Bach.
On the game of Monopoly, you go past go and you get a paycheck. And if you just go around the properties and you land on them, you pay rent.
Right.
And you can't win the game of Monopoly unless you buy 1 green home, then 2 green homes, then 3 green homes, then 4, then a hotel, right? Like you have to be an owner in the game of Monopoly. The ironic thing is that the game of Monopoly is a great lesson for all of us for life.
Yeah.
You have to own assets that make you money while you sleep, that grow while you sleep. And the challenge for most of America is that this stuff is not taught in school. My grandmother, when she started at 30, she had nothing, and she used to literally save 50 cents a week and put it in a coffee can.
Wow.
And at the end of the year, she took that coffee can down to a brokerage firm and started investing in stocks. That's what changed the entire destiny of my family.
Wow.
Was that my grandmother at 30 with no college education, working at Gimbel's department store in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, got tired of being poor. There's some people watching today that are there, right? They're listening, they're watching this or they're listening to this, and they're tired of being poor. My grandmother was frustrated. And she came home and said to my grandfather on her 30th birthday, Jack, this is not working. Like, and when you're the guy and you hear that, you're like, what do you mean this isn't working? And my grandfather said, what's not working? And she said, we're broke. We don't have any money. And, you know, to my grandmother's credit, she decided to do something about it. And so she literally brown bagged her lunch. Every day, she brown bagged her lunch so she could save that money and go invest. And the way the story turns out, Lewis, is my grandmother, my first book, Smart Women Finish Rich, was dedicated to her. She didn't become rich overnight. She built wealth over her lifetime.
Yeah.
I always say it's decades, not days. People who try to get rich quick stay broke long.
It's true.
It's like, show me those banner ads on how to get rich quick and I'll show you a way to stay poor forever.
Right.
So my grandmother realized, like, you invest in great American companies and you just keep investing and you leave it and you leave it and you leave it. And she helped me buy my first stock at age 7 in McDonald's.
Wow.
And that was 7 years old. It was like she taught me 3 lessons about money at 7 that to this day I still teach, which I can share with you.
What's that?
So at 7, we're sitting at McDonald's and she says, you know, David, you can get rich at McDonald's. And I looked at her, I'm like, Grandma, I'm eating my cheeseburger and my French fries and I have my apple pie. I said, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm not having getting a job here. She's like, see those people over there? They're working for what's called minimum wage. And I think back then minimum wage was like $1.
Nothing.
And she said, it's very hard to make a living on minimum wage. She said, then there's people like you right now, like all these people are coming here and they're eating and they're spending money. That's called a spender. And she said, then there's some people who own this place and owners get rich. And she said, and I love to play Monopoly at 7. That was my thing. I'd go to my grandmother and she'd play Monopoly with me. And she said, I'm going to teach you how to play Monopoly for real. And she took me home that day. She opened up the Wall Street Journal. She circled MCD. That's the symbol still to this day for McDonald's. And she said, here's how much McDonald's is. She put me in front of a television screen and said, watch the ticker tape. She taught me how to read that ticker tape. And she said, just call out the price on MCD. That's the price of McDonald's. And she said, tomorrow I'll take you to a brokerage firm and we'll open up an account and you'll buy 1 share of that stock. And then every time you go there, you'll know you're making money from yourself.
Wow.
And that is a wow, right? And it's funny because I'm here in LA with you, but I just went to Disneyland 2 days ago with my son, who's 9. And Disneyland.
Did you buy Disney?
I bought Disney. That was my second stock.
That's amazing.
So like literally at 9, I'm at Disney with Grandma and I'm like, hey, Mickey, are you guys public? Like, because she taught me to think as a child like an investor. Now I'm doing the same thing with my kids. Now my kids don't want to own McDonald's. They want to own Shake Shack.
Right.
So my son owns Shake Shack.
Right down the street. So
I
good.
had a brand new one, right? My younger son, after Disneyland, was like, I want to own Disney. His older brother owns Disney. It's doubled. He's like, well, I want to own Disney. My kids own Amazon. So, you know, they're learning like I learned. Now, this stuff should be taught in school. Today, this is the school, right? Like today, what we do is another way to teach people. So, but those are simple lessons I just gave you that were passed to me, and we just did that in a matter of minutes.
Rule number 5, invest in yourself with Dean Graziosi.
I remember hearing a story where this couple wanted their whole life, their dream, their desire, their whole life was to move to the West Coast and get a house on the ocean. Well, they saved up their whole life, pushing, they were delaying their happiness, delaying their gratification until they got this house. They get this house, they move in, it's paradise, it's heaven. The first month, every night, they're watching the sun go down, watching the sunsets, having a glass of wine, toasting, baby, we made it. Fast forward 6 months. This is a true story. At least the person who told me the story said it was a true story. 6 months later, the wife was like, honey, we have to get blinds put on the west-facing windows. It's so annoying. Every night when I'm cooking, the damn sun is coming through the windows, and it's so hard to pay attention. Wow. Their whole life to watch the sunsets over the ocean became annoying. So we have to watch what we're spending money on and make sure, is that feeding some significance that we're trying to prove to someone else? We're trying to prove that we made it. We're trying to show off the Rolex, show off the Lamborghini. Listen, I think everyone, if you need to, go through that phase. But here's the same thing I tell my kids, and I want to tell you. Figure out what success means to you on the deepest level possible. I went through the fancy watch phase of my life. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of watches. I don't wear any right now. Not that I'd criticize anyone who does. I wear t-shirts all the time now. I have $1,000 sports jackets because I went through that phase. But what I'm realizing, and I'm realizing a little bit later in life, that's why I want to get to everybody, no matter what age you are, is that the moments in between are where the magic lives. So I asked you what you were spending money on. I want you to make sure you're investing enough money into you, into your personal growth, into the business you have, or into the business you want to create, or into growing yourself so you could be an entrepreneur, if that's the right word, like grow within your company. I don't care where you want to grow, but you need to grow. And I want to make sure you're spending money on things that give you an ROI, either an ROI on wisdom, an ROI on success, an ROI on memories, an ROI on happiness, an ROI on health. So I'm thinking, what I was thinking, even in my own life, and I want to share with you, is you need to create an audit of where your money is being spent, because here's what I know. I'm so far from cheap. I don't stress about money. I didn't stress about money, spending it for other people, especially when I didn't have any. When I was paying on credit cards to help other people out, I always had this feeling, I know I can create more. Now, do I worry about it? Of course, or I have in the past, but I always knew I could create more money. But when I look back, I realize how much money got spent on things that mean nothing. And now I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own education. I go to at least 10 to 12 masterminds every single year. And every time I go, oh my God, I'll gain capabilities on how to go faster on Facebook, or write a book quicker, or how to market better, or how to invest in new real estate, in new industries. Or I'll get a tip from a guy who's an amazing dad, or a mom who's in a great relationship, and blow my mind. Like, I came here to make more money, but I got a tip on how to bond with my daughter better. Father-daughter bonding. This guy's amazing. Boom. Like exponential growth through learning from other people.
Rule number 6, protect your income with Patrick Bet-David.
So reports just came in that 3.28 million Americans just applied for unemployment. This is not something we're accustomed to. This is not a number we're used to having this kind of unemployment. But at the same time, I was having a conversation with a few different guys saying, Pat, how do you protect yourself against a loss like this? I mean, you're in the insurance business, you're in the anticipation business. What do you do in something like this? What's the best kind of insurance for something like this? It isn't life, it isn't auto insurance, it isn't, homeowners insurance, it isn't cell phone insurance, it isn't any of that stuff, although that stuff has got a place for it. The most important thing today for a time like this is income protection insurance. And income protection insurance is based on a few things that you need to do. So let me set that part aside. Let me give you a completely different side that we have to look at. Look, 2001, 9/11 happens. 2008, market crashes. 2020, we have the pandemic. 2001 and 2020 have a lot in common because they're both a black swan. Nobody could have predicted it. 2008, a lot of experts could have predicted it. That's why Big Short movie came out. So what would you do with a time like this? There's three different types of people today. The first group are those that are relying on the stimulus to come. I can't wait for my unemployment and the $1,000 check and the $600 a week for 39 weeks. That's awesome. I can't wait for this. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to catch up on movies. I'm going to do all this other stuff. They're just so glad that the government's bailing them out. The second group is the one that's like, listen, I don't need government's help. I'm okay. I've saved money. I already experienced it once in 01. I didn't want to experience it again. I already went through in 08 when I lost a lot of money. I told myself that'll never happen to me again. I don't need the government's bailout. I'm going to be okay. I've saved money. I've been preparing for this time. I'm going to be fine. Then there's a third group of people that are saying, I am being forced to change, and Pat, I can't stand it. I don't like where I'm at right now. And the reality of it is we change in two different ways. One is by choice, one is by force. Many people today are being forced to change. So those of you that are in the third group where you're saying, I kind of want to make sure this never happens to me ever again, what do I do? Let me kind of give you a few things to be thinking about. Number one, these are the time when you realize the skill set of pivoting and adjusting. Whoever knows how to pivot and adjust, they have an edge over everybody else. Just know most people are going to watch what everybody else is going to be doing. A few people are going to be pivoting, adjusting with current times because, again, we've never been through this before to pivot and adjust. That's one skill set. It's a mindset. You got to learn what to do. The other part, well, economically, to talk about the income protection is knowing what kind of skills pay today. For instance, if you don't know how to Zoom, you got to learn how to Zoom. If you don't know how to do webinars, you need to learn how to do webinars. If you're not a person that FaceTimes a lot, you need to learn how to do FaceTime. If you're not somebody on Facebook or social media or Instagram that goes live, you need to learn how to do that. If you're not a social media person, you need to learn how to do that. If you don't create content, you may need to learn how to do that. If you don't have a service to sell, that's not a physical product today, maybe you need to learn how to sell a service today. If you're not a good salesperson, maybe you need to learn how to sell today because those skill sets are required today. So when this happens, the income protection, the insurance policy for your income protection is knowing that you know how to make money when everything is fine, but you also know how to make money when the economic growth of 128 months in a row expansion stops. You also know how to make money in times like this.
And rule number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is develop money EQ with Ken Honda.
What I found out is that people want to learn about money IQ, which is about financial intelligence. It's about investing, how to buy stocks, and how to trade, and all the other things. But what I found out is that money EQ is more important than money IQ. Money EQ is emotional intelligence about money, how healthy you feel with money. A healthy relationship is that when you feel happy about money, your money EQ is high. When you constantly worry about money and you have fear on money, your money EQ is low. And the highest money IQ people with all the MBAs and all the doctor degree, they are good at investing and they're super good with business. But these high money IQ people often lose everything because of low money EQ. Even though you built a high tower with money IQ, the foundation is shaky, it's gonna fall. So money EQ is a foundation of life. For example, if you get a $500 raise, which is great, but can you keep the money? Probably you will celebrate your raise and spend it all. And then if you get a $2,000 raise, which is great, probably you're gonna move to a better and bigger house, and then you're gonna probably buy a bigger car and more expenses go up. So even though you get a raise, you make more money, your expenses also are trying to match your income, so you have no money at the end of the month anyway. I have known many CEOs who are making a few $100,000 a year, but still they cannot keep any money left because their lifestyle consumes all the money. So unless you learn about money EQ and have a solid foundation, you'll never be able to feel peace with money, and you'll never be able to achieve true financial independence.
Good morning, everybody. I want to challenge you today to look at yourself as being the hero of your story. We all have a story to tell. We were born to create a story, and we are creators in that sense. So today I'm challenging you to look at your life, everything that happens to you from this point on, as you being the hero of your story. And being a hero of your story, I want you to look at the main thing being your happiness. That's the goal. So today when things come at you, things that maybe you didn't expect, things that don't necessarily feel good, I want you to look at your response. I want you to think of you as writing the story of your stimulus and response to everything. So something happens, what do you do about it? Something happens again, maybe it didn't go your way, what are your thoughts about it? See if you can start to change every single thought and every single reaction as you create the story of your happiness. Have a great day, everybody.
Well, the brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of your environment. So it begs the question, does the environment control your thinking, or does your thinking control the environment? So if you wake up every morning and you do the same things and you go to the same places and you see the same people and you react in the same way and you perform the same behaviors, it really is the external environment that's turning on different circuits in your brain, causing you to think equal to everything that you know. And as long as you keep thinking equal to everything you know that's familiar and the same, according to the quantum model, you keep creating more of the same. To change, then, is to think greater than our environment, to think greater than the conditions in our world.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, make new choices.
The hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. When you decide to make a different choice, whether it's to change something that you eat or to exercise or to no longer react to certain people or conditions in your life, remember, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. That means you're in the unknown. And when you step into the unknown, you're going through dramatic changes in your own personal biology. When you're in that place of uncertainty, that place of unpredictability, that void, that unknown, ask yourself, what thoughts do you want to believe in and fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors would you like to demonstrate that's equal to a vision of the future? Close your eyes and rehearse them. Review every step. No different than an athlete beginning to rehearse what they're about to do. The act of rehearsing it begins to prime your brain to prepare you for that behavior in your future. And then finally, can you teach your body emotionally what that future is going to feel like before it happens? And when you begin to fall into the present moment and marry those intentions with an elevated emotion, your body is believing it's living in that future reality in the present moment, and you're changing your biology from living in your past present reality to living in your future present reality. And your job then is to be able to maintain that modified state of mind and body your entire day. And if you can, get ready, because something unusual is going to happen in your life. It's the law.
Rule number 3, control your emotion.
We may not be able to control everything in our outer world, but we certainly can control our inner world. And so it's not so important to not react. I mean, everybody reacts, I react. The question is, how long are you going to react? So if you keep an emotional reaction going on for an extended period of time, you're memorizing that emotion, and your body, as the unconscious mind, is believing it's living in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The body doesn't know the difference between the real experience that produces the emotion and the emotion that we create by thought alone. So then the emotion then reaffirms the state, and then people start to use the problems and the conditions in their life to keep that emotion going. And I would call that an addiction. So we become addicted to the very life we don't even like. So it's important then for people to realize then when you have that moment where you have crisis or something breaks down, that you do have control over it. And it's a formula and it's a skill. And our research shows that you can teach people how to do that. And so then when you're living by some emotion, there'll always be a gap between the way things appear and the way things really are. Emotions alter our perception. And if you act during that time, you'll always say the same thing. I should have never said that. I should have never done that. I should have never thought that. I should have never sent that email. So then shortening your emotional reactions is a level of intelligence then that causes you then to recalibrate. Because most people don't think they have control over that. They'll say, that person did it to me. That circumstance is the reason I am this way. Then I would say, if something in your outer environment is controlling your thoughts and feelings, then you're a victim to your environment. And yet, how you think and feel creates your outer world. So if you're thinking and feeling equal to everything that's known in your present personal reality, you keep creating more of the same. So to change then is to think and feel greater than the conditions in your environment. And to be able to do that to such a degree then, you're no longer reacting to the same people in the same way. And that takes an effort. It's not easy in the beginning. But once you start practicing, you get better at it. And just like anything else, you start to move through your life with more coherence, and you're less likely to knee-jerk. And if you're less likely to knee-jerk, then you're not in an unconscious program.
Rule number 4, invest in yourself.
I think one of the most important things when we lose sight of our vision is to make time for ourselves. And I think that when you invest in yourself, you invest in your future. Disconnecting from people in your life and places that you have to go and things that you do or things that you own long enough to begin to reignite a vision of how you see yourself or how you see your future, and begin to emotionally embrace that future and change your state of being allows us to see a whole new landscape. If you've lost sight of your vision, take a moment and remember that vision and begin to emotionally embrace it. And from that state of being, start to think about the things you want to do, the choices you want to make. Write them down. Review the behaviors that you have to demonstrate, your goals and experiences and how it's going to feel. When you do that enough times, you're changing your brain neurologically and you're changing your body genetically. Write down the unconscious thoughts that you have to stay conscious of. Become aware of the choices that you no longer need to make. Review the behaviors and habits you have to change about yourself and become so conscious of them that you won't go unconscious at all during your day. Remember the experiences in your environment that you need to stay away from, whether it's a person or a thing, just for a period of time so that you can keep that vision alive. And most importantly, review those emotions that keep you connected to the past and become so conscious of them and name them when you feel that feeling, that if it's guilt or sadness or pain, the moment you start feeling it and you become conscious of it, that's when you can begin to change. And if you keep doing this over and over again, the unlearning and the relearning, the breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self is going to cause you to arrive at a whole new future. And when you do, this could become your new habit.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, let go of your past.
You can't go to the future holding on to the biology of your past. Decide what thoughts you can bring to your future. Write them down. Thoughts like, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, I'll start tomorrow, what's wrong with me, it's someone else's fault. Decide on what behaviors or actions or unconscious habits you have to change. How do you talk? Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you make excuses? Do you feel sorry for yourself? Just become so conscious of those behaviors that you'll never go unconscious again. And lastly, you have to decide what emotions no longer belong in your future. That means if you want to be wealthy, you can't take lack. If you want to be healthy, you can't take insecurity or fear. You got to begin to condition your body to a new mind. If you do this every single day, your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. Change any one of those things and you change your life. And begin to measure the effects of you it cause. Give it a shot.
Rule number 6, change your personality.
Your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this little video has created the present personal reality called your life. Which means then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, you would have to change your personality. That means you'd have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. It means you'd have to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them. And you'd have to look at certain emotions that keep you connected to experiences in the past and decide, do these emotions belong in your future? The beauty behind this is that when you begin to change how you think, how you act, and how you feel, you should begin to see changes in your life. And I recommend that you try it out.
Rule number 7, don't live in survival mode.
The majority of our thoughts and feelings are connected to our sexuality, to our victimization, our guilt, our suffering, our shame, our unworthiness, our self-doubt, or our importance, our control, our fear, our anger, our frustration, our hatred, our judgment. Those are the first 3 hormonal centers in the body. And those first 3 centers have everything to do with survival. And those centers are energy consumers. Orgasm, digestion, stress is a lot of energy that we're drawing from our very vital life force, our resource of light and information, and we're turning it into chemistry, and we're literally robbing the body's energy, right? So then living like that for the short term is okay, because the body can move back to homeostasis and can restore itself. But when we're overdoing that consistently, then there's no energy for growth and repair, because you're living constantly in survival. So again, you can eat all the right food, you can do all the right things, but if you're living in anxiety and fear and you're viewing your world from the worst case scenario that could possibly happen, because that's what you do in survival, there's no energy for growth and repair. There's no energy for healing. So the majority of our thoughts are signaling certain circuits in the brain that signal another part of the brain, the limbic brain, to make what's called a neuropeptide. Neuropeptides are chemical messengers that signal hormonal centers. So now you're taking thought and you're storing it as energy in these energy centers. And if you're living in survival, why would you open your heart? I mean, it's just not a time to open your heart. I mean, if you're getting chased by T-Rex, it's not a time to meditate. It's not a time to learn. It's not a time to connect. It's not a time to communicate. It's not a time to sit down and go within. It's not a time to be vulnerable. It's time to run, fight, or hide.
Rule number 8, break bad habits.
To change is to be greater than your environment. That means to be greater than the conditions in your life, to be greater than the circumstances in your world. And every great person in history knew this. That means you have to be defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past. To change means to be greater than your body. Those unconscious habits and behaviors and choices that you've made over and over again so many times that the body becomes the mind. Emotions that are connected to past experiences keep you anchored emotionally to the past, and if those emotions are driving your thoughts, and those thoughts are creating the same emotions, then your body has become the mind, which means that in order for you to change, you're going to have to get greater than those emotional reactions, habits, and hardwired attitudes that keep you running unconscious programs. And to change then is to be greater than time. If you're waking up every single day and making the same choices and demonstrating the same behaviors and creating the same experiences, and you do that over and over again, it makes sense that your past is going to look a lot like your future, and your future will be more of your past. Finding the sweet spot of the generous present moment, existing in that place where you're no longer trying to predict the future based on the past, means you're in the unknown. And when you're in that place called the eternal present moment, That's where all possibilities exist. Give it a try.
Rule number 9, stay present.
Think about this. If you spend the majority of your day focusing on matter, focusing on everything in this three-dimensional world that's made of material things, it begs the question, how much of your time and your attention do you put on that unified field, that invisible field of information that exists beyond space and time? And just like when you're unaware of your nose, it doesn't exist, and the moment you become aware of it, it exists. The quantum field is exactly the same way. If you put very little attention on it in your waking day, then it doesn't exist for you. But the moment you begin to become aware of it, the moment you begin to pay attention to it, the moment you begin to stay present with it and to experience it moment after moment, and if where you place your attention, as you learned, is where you place your energy, and where you place your attention causes things to expand, the moment you begin to experience it, not with your senses, you experience this three-dimensional reality with your senses, but you experience it with your consciousness and with your awareness. The moment you become pure consciousness is the moment you make contact with that unified field. And so we now know the techniques and the tools to get people beyond themselves. And in fact, we know that after thousands and thousands and thousands of brain scans, that you're at your absolute best when you get beyond yourself, when you take your attention off your body, when you take your attention off your identity that's connected to people in your life, the things you own, objects you own, places you have to go, and time itself. The moment you become nobody, no one, no thing, no where, and no time, that is the moment you become pure consciousness. And that's the moment you begin to connect to that field of possibilities called the unified field or the quantum field. And that field is an invisible field of information that exists beyond this space and time. And independent of the color of your skin, your gender, your diet, your sexual preference, independent of your profession, your class, independent of all those things that create separation, that every human being has access to it.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is live by example.
I always tell my advancing students, you know when you're changing is when you stop talking about it. Because when you are truly changing, you can't go to church and shake hands and say peace be with you and then get in your car and cut everybody off on the way out of the parking lot. You can't say I don't like the war in Iraq and be arguing with your next door neighbor or your coworker. You have to be the living example of everything you want to see in the world in terms of change. If you don't like greed, start giving. You know, you have to demonstrate it, and when you do, you give people permission to do the same, because they're going to observe you doing exactly what they're afraid to do, but they know it's the right thing to do. So the way we transform the world is we transform ourselves. The way you transform a culture is you transform an individual. And individual by individual, when we stop looking outside of us and we say, that world is a reflection of some aspect of me, if everybody in the world did that simultaneously, imagine how the world would change. And it's not enough to just focus on peace. Yeah, there's been great studies that have shown that when a community of people focus on peace, that the crime rates drop. But when they leave, and the research is over, the crime rates return back to the ceiling value. It's not enough to just think it, you gotta demonstrate it. You gotta show it in all areas of your life. And when you demonstrate it now, it becomes an example for people to follow. In order for you to really begin to explore the unknown aspect of yourself, you got to learn how to get beyond the known aspect of yourself. And if you keep coming back to the known, you're going to miss out on the unknown. So you would say, well, I don't know anything in the unknown. Of course, it's the unknown. And if you try to control it there, you're back to the known. If you try to predict it, you're back to the known. So you got to go through this trial and error of just kind of refining your attention, refining your ability. And it's just got to be something like playing tennis or playing golf or doing martial arts or working out or crocheting or dancing the salsa. You just got to keep going, man. In the beginning, it's tedious. And then when you start finding your groove, like our community, they don't miss their morning meditations. You know why? Because the magic is happening, and they know if they miss it, they're gonna cut off from the magic. So they, whether they're tired, whether they're hungover, whether they're in. You know, and if you wake up in the morning
and you can't get your butt out of bed. You know what that means? It just means you can predict the feeling of everything that's going to happen in your life, and the body's resigned.
The body's
resigned. So then, you know, when you went on a school trip when you were a kid, you know, you woke up before your parents because you knew something new was going to happen. That's the body going, wake up.
Wake up.
It's something unexpected is going to happen. What happened to us, right?
Christmas Day.
Yeah. So why not, you know, put in your time and then measure the effects of you at cause. I mean, become the scientist in your life and really start to experiment with it. Okay, let me change my energy. Let me just write down 4 thoughts that, like, it's too hard, I'll start tomorrow, this doesn't feel right, whatever it is. It's this person's fault. Just write those down and say, these thoughts, like Gandalf on the bridge.
Yes.
You may not pass today. This is the end.
Yes.
So then if you become conscious of those thoughts, now you're the governor of your thoughts. What actions, what behaviors do you want to change? Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you judge? Do you make excuses? How do you talk? Do you speak limited? Just pick 4 things that you're not going to do any longer.
Yeah.
What emotions get you in trouble? What are the emotions
that you're addicted to too, right?
That you're addicted to that keep you returning back to your past? And if you don't know, close your eyes for about 30 minutes and just watch where your mind goes and watch your feelings and just say, okay, it's frustration, it's unworthiness, it's self-doubt, it's guilt, it's frustration, it's shame. Just become conscious of those and just review them in your mind so that you don't go unconscious them in your waking day. You got to stay conscious and not go unconscious. And it turns out that 95% of the time we're unconscious. So if you're going to stay conscious, then there's an element that also requires a certain amount of awareness or energy. And you got to step outside of that unconscious state. So the thoughts that they're thinking are slipping by their awareness unnoticed because they're hardwired in their brain, because they've been saying, I can't, it's too hard, my life will never change, it's someone else's fault. Those thoughts have consequences in the body. So then if a person then becomes conscious of those unconscious thoughts, becomes aware of how they speak and how they act, and they notice how they're feeling, they're no longer the program. They're the consciousness outside the program, and that's the first step to change. So when you're distracted by your environment and you got your cell phone and you're tweeting and you're Instagramming and Facebooking, whatever people do, you're distracted by that feeling. But I now know that if you take a person and you say, okay, close your eyes, sit in the silence of any external stimulation, remove the environment, sit your body down like an animal. Body is the animal. Tell it to stay. I'm going to feed you. You can check your cell phone. You can shower. You can have your coffee. But when I say, and so then here comes the challenge, right? So, and then if you say then you're not going to live in the familiar past or predictable future, you're not going to think about how long you've been meditating, what you got to do. You labor for that present moment. People think when they do this that they're doing something wrong because there's such discomfort that comes with it. But they're in the unknown. They're actually doing it right. People say, I think I'm meditating wrong. I always say, oh, no, you're doing it right. Because when you notice that your body wants to get up and check your cell phone or have a cup of coffee, and you become aware that it's on autopilot and wants to do that, and you say, come on over here, and you return it back to the present moment, you're executing a will now that's greater than the program. And if the person wants to just get angry while they're sitting there, there's an arousal, and they notice the body is amping up and revving up, and they settle it back down. Now they're telling the body it's no longer the mind, that they're the mind. Now, we've researched this, and it's tedious in the beginning at first because David is fighting Goliath. But if you keep practicing it, just like training an animal, sooner or later the body acquiesces. Sooner or later the body is trained to a new mind. And when that happens, there's a liberation of energy. The body goes from particle to wave, from matter to energy. And there goes that emotion, literally liberated from the body as energy. So the person who has the strong emotion to some circumstance in their life, and they're working on lowering the volume of that emotion, the more they lower the volume of that emotion, the more they're going to take their attention off that person and problem, and they're going to take their power back. There's going to be a break in their attention from that circumstance. And now they build their own field. And now there's energy to heal. Now there's energy to create a new life. Now there's energy for the mystical moment because they've overcome their old personality self. So I think, it's not like thinking positively. That's not the message.
Yeah.
It's overcoming until we become somebody else. And when that occurs and the person starts thinking differently and they start acting differently and they start feeling differently, they're a new personality. And they start seeing those synchronicities and serendipities. Self-love is no longer about pleasure or having a car. It's something that you're cultivating within you. So then imagine, we have research to show, and this is such a duality, that when you start seeing the brain start synchronizing, getting coherent, the front of the brain and the back of the brain, the two hemispheres coming together, and we can say to scientists that come and study our work, oh, watch this, Ed's gonna pop. What do you mean? Just watch, this is gonna be good. And all of a sudden you see this brain going into this kind of psychic union, the heart blows wide open, you see coherence going on, and you'll look around at that person, and there's tears running down their face. Imagine feeling so whole that it's impossible to want. I mean, how can you want when you're whole? Because you feel like you already have it. Now, when you reach that point, that's when the magic happens, because now you are worthy to receive. And the universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving.
Share this with them, please.
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm curious and I'm a pragmatist. If you tell me something, all I want to know is how I'm going to use it in my life. And I'm not into dinner conversation because nobody changes from that. I'm a doer and I want to be around doers. And
this is why you and I connect so well, I think.
And I obviously, you get a group of people that are passionate about transformation, and they've done some of the work. When we were doing our 4.5 day advanced workshops, right around the end of the event, I was seeing people starting to seeing some really great transformations, and I thought,
this is the pop.
Yeah, it's a pop. Big pops, and we were like, we had to send them home, and I was like, oh God, man, if I could just have them for a week. So we created these week-long events where people retreat from their lives, and they remove the constant stimulation in their external environment that reminds them of who they think they are as a personality. They separate themselves from the people they know and the places they go and the things that they do at a certain amount of time in their routine, mundane life. So we'll bridge a little quantum physics with a little neuroscience, a little endocrinology, a little epigenetics, psychoneuroimmunology. Those are all sciences about possibility. And I now know that if you can give people sound scientific information, and for me, that's the language.
I know.
And then if they can turn to the person next to them and explain it, you're not going to get off the hook. If you can't explain it, it's not wired in your brain. But if you can build a model and explain it, you're installing the neurological hardware in your brain in preparation for the experience. So the more you understand what you're doing and why, the how gets easier because you can assign meaning to it. So then if I can set up the conditions and the environment and give them the proper instructions and push the envelope a little bit. And people who get their behaviors to match their intentions and their actions equal to their thoughts, they get their mind and body working together, they're gonna have a new experience. And the experience then is not only gonna enrich the philosophical circuits in their brain, because experience does that, but it's gonna produce an emotion. So they're gonna start feeling more unlimited. I think that emotions are energy in motion. And so let's just say that we share the same experiences, okay? We're friends and we share the same experience. Oh, you're from London, I've been to London, my daughter lives in London, and we have, hey, you do this, I do that, you did that, you own this, I own that, So what we do is we actually look to see when we meet people if we're matching neurologically, if we're matching emotionally. So if we share the same experiences, we share the same emotions. And if we share the same emotions, we can relate to one another. So this is where it gets sticky. So then the moment you start saying, that person did that to you once. Yeah, that person, I had a similar experience. That person did that to me. Now we open the door like, I'm going to use you to reaffirm my attachment to that emotion. And let's just work it up so that you can suffer and I can suffer, and then we can have a conversation. And literally, we're sharing the same energy. And if we're sharing the same energy, we're sharing the same information. And we're bound by an invisible field of energy that keeps us connected.
Yes.
So then what does it take to break that energetic field? An energy that's greater than the energy that's holding it together. That's how you separate atoms that become a molecule. They're bound by an invisible field of energy that's keeping them connected. So you got to use a greater energy than the energy that's holding them together to separate them. Well, in order for you to change, then you can't have energy without awareness or consciousness. You got to go to a greater level of consciousness and change your energy. And nobody changes, Jay, until they change their energy. And when they change their energy, they change their life. So then you may say, well, this person, I use this person, and I use my enemy to reaffirm my addiction to hatred. I use my coworker to reaffirm my addiction to judgment. I use my ex to reaffirm my addiction to resentment. That we have these different people in our lives that we need to remind us of who we think we are. The enemy dies and you find another one. Your coworker leaves and you start judging another one. It's not that. So then when there's no longer a vibrational match, when you start doing the work, there's no longer a vibrational match with you and your past, present reality, that person or that condition any longer. That person or condition is going to spiral away because you're no longer in need of that. So then our life begins to change when we change our energy, and we begin to take our power back. That's essential for us to begin to create with. Now, some people can't handle that because they're not conscious that they're doing it. So they'll be working on their vision of the future, and yet they'll spend 2 hours lowering their energy back into victimization or suffering, and they want to know why their future isn't happening. Well, there's an unconscious program. Let's go after that. And once you start going after that, now all of a sudden your life starts to change again. So you can't say it doesn't work. On some level, we don't work. And if you're really invested in this, the question is, what is it about me? Where am I directing my attention or my energy? Who am I using to reaffirm some conditioning that I need to remember as my old self? So then when you stop reacting to the person, or the person's now complaining to you and you're not complaining back, it's going to be an uncomfortable moment because you're all of a sudden seeing a part of you used to be that you no longer are. And you have to be willing to not go there. And over time, that person will thank you and they'll say, I didn't even know that I was complaining that much. And by changing yourself, you help others. What thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What kind of attention and